Hey guys, and welcome on in to the first episode of, I know not a really interesting name I came up with, but CFL Week 7 picks and predictions. I am Terry, Nick beside me. We have TK down below, and we are going to break down the CFL slate. Of course, we have a game that is happening tonight, so we will definitely start with that one. And we can just jump right into it here. And I will start by bringing up the current odds in the game. So currently here, Edmonton, you can get for plus 600 to plus 816 on the money line. Winnipeg minus 900 to minus 1228. Of course, the spread 14 and a half, also 15s available, 45s and 45 and a halves available as well in this one. And I'm going to let Nick start off with this game. Nick, what do you
Yeah, we're
think
taking the
about
Elks
week one?
outright. Yeah, Elks outright. I'm just kidding. No. This is an Elks team that cost me money in the beginning of the season, but looking at it, they are 0-6 this year. They're 1-5 ATS. And they get to go up against Winnipeg, which I would not want to be going up against Winnipeg this week, especially after what happened last week. They lose to Ottawa 31-28 in overtime as a 10-point favorite, where they had a 16-point lead with about 3.5 minutes to go in that game. A pick six by Jack Colaros, and then they had another possession. They turned it over. They punted. Ottawa came down and scored, and then they settled for a field goal in overtime. Ottawa won it with a touchdown, and not being able to close out the game is what I think is going to lead to Winnipeg playing a full, complete 60 minutes of football here. They want no doubt left in this game. I would lean towards Winnipeg. I'm not laying 15 points. That is just seems a little much for me personally. I did take the Winnipeg team total over 30 and a half, the full game over 45 and a half. I'm expecting points in this game. Now, it's probably Taylor Cornelius, which I think he can help put a couple points up on the board for the Elks tonight, maybe 10, 14 points. I think most of the scoring will be done by Winnipeg in this game. I'm expecting 35 to maybe 40 points in this game from Winnipeg, just running the ball down their throats. This is one of the worst running defenses in the CFL with the Edmonton Elks. And they have an opportunity where the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, one big thing last week that really caused them to really struggle and lose that game is they couldn't run the ball against Ottawa. That was one thing where Oliveira got barely anything going on the ground, and that's why they were throwing the ball with 3 minutes to go and a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter, because they couldn't do anything on offense running the football. I think that changes tonight with the worst run defense in football that they're facing in the Elks. I like the Blue Bombers to put up at least 31 points here in this game. I got their team total over 30 and a half, and I got the full game over 45 and a half. I would not be surprised to see them continue to score late into the fourth quarter in this one to make sure there's no chance of a comeback in this one.
All right. TK, what do you think? Elks and Blue Bombers.
Yeah, I think from last week, looking at the Bombs, that was a disaster quarter, especially with 3 minutes left to go in the game. Be up by 16 and basically blow it away. And I would expect to come out and play a full 60 minutes on football. And it's a good tune-up game. I mean, we all know how the Elks are. It's pretty much trash on both sides of the ball. So I expect the Elks to do much scoring. Bombers are fantastic at home, especially in the second half. I think this game stays under. I really don't have any skin in the game as of right, but I do kind of lean toward under, and I do lean towards what Winnipeg have. The game minus is a lot to me. I think that, but that's still a lot, especially league, and especially from what I saw. I didn't take that. But I do think that is kind of where the edge was to take that. So those would be my two leans.
All right. TK is on the road driving. That's why it was a little bit staticky there, but it's all good. for me here in this one, I really like the other three games a lot more here. If you followed me on Twitter or if you bought my premium plays in the season, you will know that I love to fade Edmonton. I'm always tweeting, not always tweeting, but I'm jabbing the Edmonton Elks. They've been horrendous all season long. Um, just, I don't like laying over 9.5 points. Uh, and once you get to 14.5 minus 15, Winnipeg, this team has been uh, the best team in the CFL for a few seasons now. But this year, they've shown signs of kind of taking a step back here, especially defensively. So I'm not going to trust them with the point spread, but you will not catch me taking Edmonton, even at plus 15.5. You could put it up to plus 21.5. And I'd still be kind of thinking, I want to touch this. I do have two player props. Player props in the CFL, it can be hard to find them. Um, but I have two player props for this game. Dalton Schoen over 68.5 receiving yards. He is averaging 71.8 receiving yards per game. I do expect Winnipeg to put on offense in this game against the Elks. So I like Schoen to get more than 70 receiving yards. And then a player that I've been watching, Drew Wolodarski. He is second in the CFL in receiving touchdowns with 4 so far this year. Yet he's plus 190 to find the end zone in this one. I know a lot of the other players, like Dalton Schoen, I believe, is like minus 250, where the leading touchdown scorer is plus 190. I won't argue with it. He's been plus money the last few weeks as well. So I will take Drew Wolodarski anytime touchdown at plus 190 in this game. We will move on along to the second one. If anyone in the chat has any questions, feel free to leave them. But we'll jump into the second game, which is the Toronto Argonauts and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. In this one, Toronto currently minus 364 to minus 450. Hamilton plus 300 to plus 350. Minus 8 for Toronto up till minus 10.5. One thing you will notice in the CFL is lines will vary across book to book. Hamilton, you can get plus 8, and you can also get them for plus 10.5 if you like Hamilton. 50s, 50.5s, and 49.5s in this game. And for me here, Toronto's been consistent. They've been consistent all season long, winning all 4 games. They have scored at least 32 points in all 4 games. Funny enough, their lowest scoring game was against Hamilton when they only scored 32 points. Their team total is at 29.5. Hamilton is giving up 32.8 points per game. Toronto, as I said, averaging 38.75 points per game. I already took Toronto minus 6.5. Of course, now you're looking at anywhere from minus 8 to minus 10. I also jumped on Toronto team total over 29.5 today for minus 110. And AJ Ouellette over 72.5 rushing yards. He is Toronto's running back there. He's averaging 77.3 rushing yards per game. Hamilton, their defense is bad, the worst in the CFL. Both of these two teams have a lot of injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I would not be surprised to see a very high scoring game in this one. So Toronto minus 6.5, Toronto team total over, AJ Ouellette over 72.5 rushing yards. Nick, what do you think here? Argos and Tiger Cats.
Yeah, this is a game I got in on, and I hit 3 different spots on this game, and I've beaten line movements on all 3 of them. Looking at this game, we had the Toronto Argonauts, which are I'm going to say the best team in the CFL right now. They're the reigning Grey Cup champs, and they have picked her up right where they left off last year, where they are playing really well. That offense is clicking. Chad Kelly has really clicked in the CFL so far. They've gone over in basically every game, depending on the line you got on that first game. If you got 47, it went under. But if you got the 45 and a half, 46, it was most through that week, you got the push or the over. Other than that, they've sailed over these totals 32, 43, 45, and 35. And this is a Hamilton defense that's been massively disappointing. They got a couple decent acquisitions in the offseason that haven't panned out. And this is a Argos offense that is clicking on all cylinders. And the thing is that there are going to be some injuries in this game as well, as you mentioned. It's going to be a third string quarterback for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I think it was Pickett or something. No, not Pickett. Powell.
Powell.
Yeah, Powell, who played in the second half of the Elk game last week. Looked decent. It was the Elks. But I do think he's going to be able to move the ball a little bit here. I do like the over in this game, over 49. I have the overs in all 4 games. I did that last week. It clicked finally, offense, after unders were hitting like absolute crazy for the first 5 weeks. Week 6, finally click with the overs. I'm on the overs in every game this week. I like it. This one probably the most, because I think that Toronto gives me at least 35 to 40 of them, because this is a Toronto offense I think is going to continue to click. And I do think we get Hamilton putting up some points on the board as well. I got 7.5 with the Argos as well in this game, and the team total over. I got that at 28.5 earlier in the week. I really like this Argos team, and going forward, I'm just going to continue to back them until proven otherwise, because I've been on them, I think, every single week since the Elks game. This is a team that's just been putting up points and covering point spreads. So nothing really to stop here. I like the Argos here. I got their -7.5. Moving from -7.5 to -9 is not a huge move in football. I know it's a 1.5. It's really teaser protection, because now the 6-point teasers, if you try to tease it, you're down to a 3 instead of a 2. That's why lines will move from 7.5 to 9 like that, especially in the NFL. So keep that in mind when it moves from that time. It may not be, wow, this line's moved 2 points already. It's the books are protecting themselves from you putting them in a teaser with someone like the Lions, which were at not 8.5, 9 at open, which you could have gotten them below a field goal as well, teasing them in the beginning. But it's just teaser protection, really, when they do that. So I do like the Argos. I'd play them up to 10. I think they win this game by double digits in this spot, and they put up another 35 to 42 spot like they have all season long. So I'm on the Argos. I got them at -7.5. I got the team total over 28.5. I got the full game over 49.
All right. I may be looking at the full game over as well. Haven't added it, but looking at all those defensive injuries.
That is up to a 50 now. So the books are adjusting for that as well.
Yeah. TK, what do you think here? Toronto, Hamilton.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the Argos team total over. I think you mentioned it. I mean, they're a well-oiled machine and a train that keeps moving, and I don't see anyone that's really stopping them from scoring, especially Hamilton's defense. And I think Hamilton's defense is one of the worst against the run, and I do like AJ Olette's props to go over. I think he goes for 100 tonight. I think both him and Andrew Harris have a good successful game. So I'm looking at Olette's props over for rushing yards, and the Argos team total over as well.
All right. Yeah, I'm on both of those. Ouellette's 72.5 is the number for his rushing yards. And yeah, I could see him getting close to 100, like you said. I love that look. We'll go into the next game here, which is the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the BC Lions here, but I have the wrong one. I apologize. Saskatchewan, anywhere from +320 to +350 on the money line. BC -417 to -450. -10s now, -10.5. The total, everybody agrees. Book to book to book, everyone says 45.5 in for the total in this one. And Saskatchewan has been a team that I've liked to back. I backed Saskatchewan quite a few times this year. However, the last game I stayed off them because of the injuries. Their injury list continues to get longer, and then to lose Trevor Harris, um, to lose your starting quarterback, the guy that was one of the main reasons I was backing Saskatchewan in the first place, is now gone. Uh, I think Saskatchewan right now 3-2. I think this team falls apart. Honestly, I think I don't want to say their 3-2 record is a mirage, because had Harris stayed healthy, and this team started to get more healthy, I would have been continuing to back them. But I can't do that here. I locked in BC minus 8.5 earlier on in the week. As I said, now it's minus 10. Um, Today, I locked in BC team total over 27.5. And I also locked in Vernon Adams Jr. over 257.5 passing yards. Adams Jr. is averaging 308 passing yards per game. So to get 257.5, I will take that here. BC at home. The Saskatchewan team, as I said, they have played really well so far this year, and they've kept games close. But last week against Calgary, BC is a completely different animal, and I don't see Saskatchewan keeping this game close. If you want to back the Saskatchewan Roughriders, you want to take them first half. It's very possible BC could be a little sleepy there to start off with after their bye week. But in the second half, I like BC to take care of business. So BC minus 8.5, team total over 27.5, and Vernon Adams Jr. over 257.5 passing yards. TK, we'll go to you first or next this time. What do you think here, Saskatchewan, BC?
Yeah, Trevor Harris going out for Saskatchewan. I mean, that really sucks. And from what I've seen out of Mason Fine, he's terrible. I'll put it flat out. He's terrible. I don't like him being in the position of being the starting quarterback, and I quite frankly think he's going to strike. I like BC first half. I just kind of let them to cover the full game just because I think that they clearly are the better team and the more complete team. A fantastic defense, and I would look for that defense to completely shut down Saskatchewan. So I think that they cover the 10. I like them more in the first half of this game.
Okay, so you like them first half. Nick, what do you think here? Saskatchewan and BC.
Yeah, you said you don't really want to call the Riders record a mirage. I will. I think that this Riders team is probably one of the more overrated teams in the CFL. They're 3-2, and that is fool's gold. They beat Edmonton twice by a combined 4 points. Scratch that, 5 points. They beat Edmonton twice by a combined 5 points. They won in overtime against Calgary, and their losses are to Winnipeg when they played a top team. They got their ass kicked. And last week, that game was a lot closer than it should have looked. They got 2 special teams touchdowns. If it wasn't for that, that offense did nothing last week against Calgary, and Calgary was the much better overall team. If you take away those 2 special teams touchdowns, it was a blowout. And looking at this spot for me, I've already played the over 45.5. I'm worried a little bit on that play. I just bet all the overs because I'm continuing to ride the overs. One thing I am worried about is Saskatchewan not doing anything on offense, especially with Mason Fine at quarterback. I'm probably going to jump on the BC Lions team total over, and I'm probably going to grab on the BC Lions even at 10 here. I think this is a spot where they can win this game 38-7, something along those lines. I think this can be an absolute blowout because I think the Riders, similar to last year, they beat the bad teams and they lost to the good teams. And this is a really good team in the BC Lions, arguably the best team in the Western Division. You can throw Winnipeg up there, but I think right now I would take BC over Winnipeg. And this is a BC Lions team that they're off a bye, so they had plenty of time to prepare for this matchup. The Riders are beat up all to hell. So this is a Riders team that has tons of injuries. They're on to their backup quarterback, which is a huge question mark, against arguably the best defense in the CFL as well. This BC Lions, I think, defense is going to swarm Mason Fine in this offense, and they're going to really struggle in this game. So the only thing I'm worried about in this game with my over 45.5 is that the Riders won't put up double digits in this game. Like, I can honestly see this game finishing with Riders 7 points, 3 points, even a shutout potentially, which does get me worried on that one. But I do see this as I think this is the biggest blowout of the week, and we have a 15 to start the week. I see this as potentially a 3-score game. So I am going to be grabbing BC. I haven't bet it yet, but I don't mind the 10 here. I think this is an absolute blowout, and I like the team total over because that Saskatchewan defense, I think, is a big question mark, and they do have injuries to that defense as well. So I'm looking at the BC Lions in an absolute rout here.
All right. Yes, Saskatchewan is injuries all over the place. One thing I just noticed here, Saskatchewan team total is at 17.5. So I'm going to be jumping on, it's at Pinnacle. I'm going to shop around. But 17.5, minus 122 right now for Saskatchewan team total under 17.5. I'm going to be adding that after the show. BC does have the best defense.
What did you say on what the juice was for that real quick?
Minus 122.
I can get you 120 on Bet Online, minus 120 under 17.5 Saskatchewan.
Yeah, that's a really good bet in my opinion. But we will jump into the second the last game. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, TK. It's okay.
Yeah, I was going to say I like that 17.5 unless, I like the under on that 17.5 unless, Mario Alford with 3 punt returns or kickoff returns. I see them hitting that number, doing anything on offense. So I'm sure that BC won't make the mistake 3 did and continue kicking to them. I don't see that happening. I think they're a little bit smarter than that, but unless he gets his hands on the ball, I just don't see them getting over that 17.5. So I like that.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about looking at it earlier on the day, and then as Nick was talking, I thought, I'm going to check that out. But yeah, it's a great number.
Also, first half minus 6 is kind of interesting as well for BC. I might grab that as well.
All right. We will jump into the final game here. It is my favorite game of the week, and we may finally have some disagreement, possibly, in this one. But Ottawa Redblacks head to Calgary here. You can get Ottawa plus 170 to plus 191. Calgary minus 200 to minus 230. 4.5s and 5s, 45 and a half, or sorry, 45, 45 and a half, and 44 and a half when it comes to the total in this game. And for me here, I just spoke about Saskatchewan and how much injuries that team has. Calgary played Saskatchewan last week, beat them by 2 points. Really, with the team that Saskatchewan has right now, with Harris getting injured during the game, there's no way that game should have been that close in that one. Now Calgary's heading home, 0-2 at home so far on the season. They're 3-6 in their last 9 home games. And here comes Ottawa, a team that shocked the world in beating the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. For me, this Ottawa team, I've already backed them earlier on in the year already. And I'm doing it again. I already locked in Ottawa plus 5.5. I was waiting for the money line to hit plus 200. It did briefly hit plus 200, but I did not take it. Now it's around plus 189 for Ottawa on the money line. I'm going to wait a little bit more and see if I can get it closer to plus 200. I'll be pulling the trigger on Ottawa money line. And I'm also taking Dustin Crum anytime touchdown plus 100. He is Ottawa's 4th string quarterback right now, I believe, 3rd or 4th string. But this kid has a chance now. This could be his team. If he can play like he did in the fourth quarter in the last game against Winnipeg here, then I like Ottawa to win this game as an outright dog upset. So I'm all over Ottawa here in this game. Crum, 3 rushing touchdowns is good for tied for second in the CFL so far this year. So I like him to get one, and I like Ottawa to upset in this game, at least cover the point spread, possibly win. TK, will go to you next in this one. What do you think, Ottawa, Calgary?
Yeah, I think it was a great effort by Crum last week, but I think if we really break down that game and you look at the first half, they just got absolutely dominated by Winnipeg. If you ask me, I think the Bombers took the gas the second half, and especially towards the end of the game, they did, and he took advantage of it. From what I can recall with the game there, I just don't see it happening twice. I'm not the greatest fan of Jake Mayer. I think he's average to sometimes subpar. There are times where he shows up and he makes some really great throws and makes some plays. Like he did last week in the game against Saskatchewan. I still want to trust Calgary to the job done. I don't think they want to fall victim to losing the Red Blacks into a 4-string quarterback. I think something that's in their mind and that they know that. And I do think that they are a better team. The question is, will they play like it? I think they will. So I'll take Calgary to cover the -5. I think they'll do. I think there's gonna times in the game where it's Jake Ayers is gonna struggle because he usually does. I think when it comes down to it, he will get the job done. So I'll take Calgary to cover and win.
All right. So TK likes Calgary. Nick, Ottawa Redbacks, Blacks, Calgary Stampeders. What do you think here?
Yeah, I'm on the same side as TK here. And this is a game that I had circled right as that Ottawa game finished, and they pulled off that comeback and won in overtime against one of the better teams in the CFL as a double-digit dog last week. And that is a big question. Can Crum do it again? Maybe he can. But here's the thing. They started Arbuckle over him. They started Tyree Adams over him. They started Marsala over him. I think there's a reason why he was a 4th-string quarterback, and we may learn that this week. Once again, I did play the over in this game because I'm on all the overs. But I feel like something finally clicked with the Calgary offense last week with Jake Meyer. And they were starting to move the football a lot better last week than we saw them do in weeks past. And when we look at that game, like I iterated when we broke down the Saskatchewan game last, that game was a lot closer than it actually was. And the Saskatchewan should have been in no way, shape, or form close to winning that game. They relied on 2 special teams touchdowns. And if it wasn't for that, the Calgary Stampeders win that game going away with it. And I think that's something we can see here. I still don't think the Red Blacks are a very good team. I have them in at least the bottom 3 in the CFL. Obviously, I have the Elks last. I think the Red Blacks, I have them ranked last in the Eastern Division. And one game does not change that for me on a comeback where, that was a great comeback. Hats off to the Ottawa Red Blacks, but I would like to see you go out there and do it again 2 weeks in a row. This is not a good football team, and good football teams don't string together wins. And I think Calgary wins this one by at least a touchdown. Kind of worries me. I like all favorites this week, which means one of these dogs are going to win outright. Maybe it's the Red Blacks, but I really like Calgary, and this is a game I had circled from the end of that overtime without even knowing who Ottawa was playing next. And I do like this Calgary team. I think they're an above-average football team. I think they're 3rd in the Western Division behind BC and Winnipeg. They're a fringe playoff team, and they maybe can pull off an upset in the playoffs, something along those lines. But when it comes to it, I think something finally clicked with the Stampeders team, and I like them at home here against a team that I think is not a great football team in Ottawa, that I think is in a massive letdown spot here. Very similar to after BC beats Winnipeg a couple weeks ago, and then they went and played Toronto and got beat. I think something very similar here with the Stampeders getting the win in this spot. So I like the Stamps. I got them -5.5. I got the full game over. and maybe look towards the Calgary team total. I like the way that offense started to click last week. Maybe they continue that into this week as well. But I like Calgary in the over in this spot.
All right. This is the one over that you have that, okay, BC definitely has the best defense.
BC makes me nervous. That's the one that
This
makes me the
one
most
here,
nervous. I like it.
this is a game I would go under with as well. Or I would go under with. Ottawa, I think, has top 3 defense in the CFL. I love Ottawa's defense. And Nick alluded to where his team's ranked. I'll quickly go over my power rankings before we finish off the show. Toronto's number 1, BC number 2, Winnipeg number 3, and then there's a huge drop off. And the 5 teams: Ottawa, Calgary, Saskatchewan, Montreal, Hamilton. I literally have them all like really close to each other. I think they're all pretty much kind of jumbled up together, and then Edmonton is about 10 steps below everybody else. So that's how I have things. But of course, as the weeks go on, somebody in that 5-team pack is going to start to stand out, I think. And we'll see who that is. TK, anything you want to finish off with before we head out?
I agree with your power rankings. I think Edmonton's just gonna get worse in my opinion, until Trey Ford goes under center. I don't see them doing anything. I think that's the first step for them, and I just do not understand what he could have done to remain third on the chart and just not even get an opportunity. It makes no sense to me. As far as upsets, I mean, it kind of scares me looking at old favorites. I just don't see any of the dogs. That maybe Ottawa, because of their defense. I feel that they do have a really, really good defense. They've kept them in a lot of games. Very early on when Arbuckle was starting and then Adams came in, they have a really good defense that keeps them hanging around. So, that's a plus for them. But that might be the only game that I see where they might have a chance. If Mayer starts to struggle, defense keeps them around. Maybe Chrome can hang around in there and might be able to do something. But I think with Calgary being at home, that kind of helps out. Should be a good week. It should be a good week of games.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to follow me at Let's Go Wild Picks on Twitter, if you want to follow Nick at Nicholas_Earl on Twitter,
Yep.
And TK, Mr._TK, I believe, but I have his Twitter link. All 3 of our Twitter links are in the description of the video. So if you want to follow us, give us a follow. But that is the show, going over the 4 games on the slate today. We'll be back next week for week 8, going through week 8. But thanks everyone for watching. Best of luck this weekend. Let's all make some money, and we'll see you guys again. Have a good one.